Hello, everyone. Welcome to Congressman Chris Deluzio's Telephone Town Hall. This event is a chance to share your thoughts with Congressman Deluzio. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dirk. I'll be your moderator for this evening's Telephone Town Hall, which is scheduled to last about an hour. Here's a quick snapshot of Congressman Chris Deluzio. He is a veteran, voting rights attorney, cybersecurity expert, union organizer, and he proudly represents Pennsylvania's 17th Congressional District and all of you. We'll get started in just a few minutes, but this live, interactive event is all about giving you, Congressman Deluzio's constituents, a chance to ask questions about the issues you care about directly to the congressman. To submit your question anytime during this event through the phone, please press *3 on your telephone keypad. If you've joined us online, you can type your name and question right below the streaming player. We can't get to all the questions, but we will get to as many as we can. After pressing *3, you will relay your question to a staff member, and they will record your name, hometown, and your question to put it in the queue for the congressman to answer. Again, submit your questions by pressing *3 to speak with a staff member and leave your question for the congressman. At this point, I'd like to welcome everyone who have just joined us. You're here at the start of Congressman Chris Deluzio's June Telephone Town Hall. We'll get started momentarily. Along with being able to ask questions during this event, you can also get subscribed to receive Representative Deluzio's e-newsletter by pressing *6. Again, to subscribe to the Congressman's informative e-newsletter, please press *6. So glad you joined us for Congressman Chris Deluzio's Telephone Town Hall. We'll give people a few more moments to join the call with Congressman Deluzio's office. For those of you who've just joined, if you want to ask a question of Congressman Deluzio, which is the main goal of this event, please press *3 on your telephone keypad to submit your question. That's *3 if you have a question you'd like to have asked. Again, we get everyone connected through the district. Congressman Deluzio has a poll question to get a better understanding of who's joined us tonight. Please use your telephone keypad to answer the following question. Have you attended a town hall in person or here on the telephone with Congressman Deluzio before? Press 1 for no. This is your first town hall event with the congressman. Press 2 for yes. You have attended other town hall events with Congressman Deluzio. So again, looking for your input on this question. Please use your telephone keypad to respond. Have you attended a town hall in person or on the telephone with Congressman Deluzio before? Press 1 for no. This is your first town hall event with the congressman. Press 2 for yes. You've attended other town hall events with Congressman Deluzio. I see folks are keying in their response. Thank you all for participating in this question here on Congressman Deluzio's June Telephone Town Hall. I'll share the results of this question after we get into the Q&A portion of this event. Remember, press *3 if you have a question for Congressman Deluzio. Now, if you're streaming this event online at deluzio.house.gov/live, you can type your question right below the streaming player. Again, deluzio.house.gov/live is where you'll see that streaming player. While it's not possible to get to everyone's question, we will get to as many as possible, so please stay on the line to hear if your question is answered. If you don't have a question but want to listen in, you can listen to the audio stream of this event on Congressman Deluzio's Facebook page, or as we mentioned earlier, at deluzio.house.gov/live. That's deluzio.house.gov/live. Remember, if you have a question, you can do that by pressing *3. Please note, we can't accept questions through our Facebook comments, but we can through deluzio.house.gov/live. Now, I want to invite Congressman Chris Deluzio to give some opening remarks before we get to answering your questions. Congressman?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Telephone Town Hall. I'm down in Washington for votes this week, so thanks for dialing in. I can't be there at home with you tonight. Stay cool. I know it's been hot at home. It's hot in Washington, too. Please be safe. We put out some info on cooling centers in both Beaver County and Allegheny County. Please do everything you can to stay cool out there. I just got the numbers. Looks like we got, more than 8,400 folks on the call right now. That's awesome. Thanks for joining me tonight. Thanks for taking the time to be with me and my team. I hope you guys know who I am. I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I grew up in Thornburg in Allegheny County. I was a senior in high school at Canevin when the 9/11 attacks happened, which led me and so many others to serve. I went off to the Naval Academy, and my deployments took me at sea and to a tour on the ground in Iraq. I'm now a very proud husband and dad of 4 kids. Keeps me busy, as you can imagine. And in my time post-military, after I was done with the Navy, I became a lawyer. I was working at Pitt before I ran for Congress, working on cybersecurity and election issues. And since my election in 2022, it has really been the honor of my life to serve and represent us, represent Western Pennsylvania in the Congress. It really is a great honor. And let's just dive into what I'm guessing has been on the minds of so many of us, certainly me, conflicts in the Middle East after U.S. military strikes in Iran. And since the beginning of the fighting between Israel and Iran, I've been clear that no one should want a nuclear-armed Iran. I think it's a dangerous thing, number one. Number two, that a president, no matter their party, no president can start a war alone. That requires Congress and Congress's approval. And look, let's be honest about it. Sending Americans, brave Americans, to fly over the airspace of another country and drop some of our biggest bombs in our arsenal, that's an act of aggression. The Constitution gives the American people, through the Congress, the power and the authority to decide whether or not we send Americans into the hell of war. I hope you'll excuse my language. I don't say that lightly. That decision, it's one of the most serious decisions that we as the American people can ever make. I think it needs a full public debate so the American people can see and hear the evidence before we'd ever spend American treasure or risk spilling American blood in a conflict that could become another bloody forever war in the Middle East. Now, I know the costs. I've seen them of making the wrong decision here. As I said, I'm a proud Navy guy. I served a tour with an Army Civil Affairs unit in Iraq. I have plenty of classmates and friends who will bear the costs of their service for as long as they are alive if they came home. And the Iraq War where I served, I think, was a disastrous mistake based on bad intelligence. But at least the Congress had that debate. The American people were part of it. And again, as I say, we'll be paying for the costs of those mistakes for as long as my generation of veterans is alive. I don't want to see Americans today, especially our troops in the Middle East, at risk. And there are tens of thousands of Americans in the Middle East. My problem here, the problem as I see it, is that this president went ahead and decided to strike without any kind of congressional authorization, no debate, no discussion of the risks or the benefits or what the intelligence was. The American people were left in the dark. The American people still haven't been told whether these strikes succeeded. There are still questions, including questions that I have. Where is the Iranian uranium? We've seen reports that the Iranians moved supply before the strikes. I will tell you, I'm proud to be supporting a war powers resolution legislation that would constrain the president's ability here to further escalate this conflict and would reassert Congress's authority over declaring war or authorizing military force. Now, I also want to be clear. I'm glad to see the Trump administration making efforts to de-escalate this conflict, to broker a peace deal between Israel and Iran. I encourage more of that. Now is the time to more fully pursue diplomacy that can prevent the horror of a nuclear-armed Iran. I sit on the Armed Services Committee, so I will continue to keep these developments. I'll monitor them very closely. I'll keep speaking out for Congress's role under our Constitution and fighting for the best interests of our country. I want to shift gears to something a little closer to home. Let's talk about the big tax and spending bill that President Trump and congressional Republicans are pushing through the Congress right now. I voted no when it came to a vote on the House floor last month or so for a pretty basic reason. That bill would rip away health care for millions. It would shut down food assistance for families and schools, all to pay for fiscally reckless tax handouts to the ultra-rich and big corporations, adding trillions to the national debt. I don't think it's that complicated. To put it plainly, that bill would make our country, including tens of thousands of people in our part of the world, in Western Pennsylvania, sicker, poorer, and hungrier, all to pay for fiscally reckless tax handouts to the very rich and powerful. Now, the bill is really long, thousands of pages. It's being debated in I guess, changed in the Senate moment to moment, if you follow along. But I want to talk about some pretty bad things that are in the bill that came out of the House. The cuts to health care, Medicaid, they're so steep, the estimates are 16 million Americans would lose health care, including more than 20,000 people in our congressional district in western Pennsylvania. There's a report out of UNC Chapel Hill that identified 5 hospitals in the western part of Pennsylvania that are at risk of shutting down if this bill becomes law. And so I know a lot of us are watching what our colleagues in the Senate are doing to see what they do with this bill. It's not clear when they'll move it, if they'll move it, what the final version will be, if it'll come back to the House. No matter what happens, I'm not interested in voting to take away health care from people to pay for fiscally reckless tax giveaways to the ultra-rich and powerful. So I will keep everyone in the loop as things happen here. So please stay tuned. And as I said here, I'm never going to shy about fighting back where I have to and where I should. But I think I also have a responsibility to talk about what my positive vision for our country, what our government should be doing. I think we need much more focus from Washington, from our Congress, from the president, you name it, about getting costs down for people. I think we have to make more stuff in this country. We especially have to rebuild our manufacturing base around our national security, create good union jobs that can support families. A big part of that vision, right, is that hardworking people got to get a bigger slice of the economic pie, and we got to grow the size of the pie. We need to do both of those things, and part of how we get that done is to take on the corruption of corporate power that's ripping people off, that I see every day when I'm in Washington. I summarize this as we got to rebuild the American dream. So you work hard, you play by the rules, you can live a life of dignity. I think central to that is government of, by, and for the people. That's where we got to fight that corruption. Part of that, though, is elected officials taking questions from people, and that's what we're tonight going to do. So I'm excited to hear from you guys, hear your questions. I'll turn it back to our moderator, Dirk. He'll go through some more logistics for the night, and we will dig in. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much, Congressman. Now, before we get into it, just a quick reminder, you can submit your questions by pressing *3 on your telephone keypad. Along with asking questions, you can also get subscribed to Representative Deluzio's weekly email newsletter by pressing *6. So the mechanics, if you've got a question, please press *3. To get subscribed for the Congressman's e-newsletter, please press *6. So very glad you've joined us for Congressman Chris Deluzio's June telephone town hall. We're going to get to our first question, and this was submitted by Joseph in Crafton, who says, I'm glad President Trump had the courage to take out Iran's nuclear sites. Why are you against this? It's important for our national security.
Joseph, thanks for the question. I know I talked a little bit about it in my opening kind of remarks here, but what I'm against is the American people being left in the dark and having no role to decide when we commit Americans to fight. That is a power that rests with the Congress. Folks like me who've been elected to have that kind of decision-making, to talk with our constituents, to see an administration present evidence for what the risk is, what they're seeing, why the American people should be willing to risk American lives, what the urgency is. None of that was presented, I don't just mean in the Congress, to the American people. So I am supporting legislation, War Powers Resolution, that has Democrats and Republicans. There are a couple of these bouncing around, but I'm supporting legislation to make clear that this power rests with the Congress, that if any president, no matter what the party wants to present, evidence to the American people that wants to pursue military strikes, they got to come and do that. They got to make the case. And I will be clear, my standard for whether I would vote to send Americans to fight is one that I have talked about since before I was elected to this job. Can I look my constituents in the eye, all of you, and say, you should be willing to risk your life for this, or your kids, or your grandkids? That's the standard. I don't think it's complicated. I think it's what folks in my job have a duty to do. And I say this not just as a member of Congress. I'm a veteran of the war of Iraq. I have classmates who've given life and limb to this country. My generation understands the cost of members of Congress and people in the White House not doing their jobs in moments like this. And so I'm never going to be shy about that. I think it's what I was elected to do, and I think it's something that matters no matter which party is in the White House. And I also want to be clear, I don't want to see a nuclear Iran. I think the Iranians right now, even before these strikes, were diminished regionally. They have been a state sponsor of terrorism. They have funded and supported proxies to Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis. They are reeling from the losses in Syria, Assad. And so now is the moment for diplomacy, I think, can work. And we've seen what the data has been. The Iranians were enriching uranium at greater rates after President Trump pulled out of what had been a nuclear deal that President Obama had entered into with the Iranians. They're enriching uranium at a higher rate after the President Trump pulled out of the deal than they were while that deal was in place. And that deal should have been strengthened. It happened before I was in Congress. But I think the point here is that we've got to have a diplomatic effort. And President Trump and his team were pursuing diplomacy before these strikes. They should get back to that. And I applauded the efforts to get a ceasefire agreement, to get us on a de-escalatory path with the Israelis and the Iranians. We need more of that, and I encourage the administration to continue that.
Thank you to everybody who have sent in their questions. If you're listening in and you would like to submit a question, it's really simple to do. Please press *3 on your telephone keypad. And I want to quickly share the results of the poll question we asked a few moments ago. The question was, have you attended a town hall in person or on the telephone with Congressman Deluzio before? So those people that replied, 49% stated it's their first, or basically no, which would mean it was their first attendances with this call this evening, so welcome. 51% have attended other town hall events. So to those 51%, welcome back to another incredible live telephone town hall with Congressman Deluzio. Thank you, everybody, for participating. At this moment, I'd like to ask another poll question. And so, again, please use your telephone keypad to reply to this. How concerned are you about corruption in the federal government? Press 1 for not concerned. Press 2 for moderately concerned. Press 3 for extremely concerned. Again, we're looking for your input on this question. How concerned are you about corruption in the federal government? Press 1 for not concerned. Press 2 for moderately concerned. Press 3 for extremely concerned. A number of people are keying in their response. Thank you very much. As we start to collect these results, we'll get back to your questions. We'll take as many questions as we can. Again, if you have a question, please press *3. So Anne from Terendum and Marie, who called in with a similar concern, prices for everything, electricity and groceries, are too high and going up every year. It's impossible for seniors or parents to keep up. This is what government is supposed to help with. So, Congressman, what are you doing to help?
Well, I agree that government's supposed to be helping here, and I will tell you, this is probably the most common thing I hear from people who are frustrated that life is too expensive, that people work hard and cannot afford a decent and dignified life. And I think, to me, this goes to what I talk about the American dream a lot, that it is out of reach for too many. I'm 40 years old. Whatever that makes me, I think I'm like maybe middle age now or something. But my generation of Americans and younger, we're the first generation since the Second World War. The data now tells us you don't expect to be better off than your parents. And that is something that I think is so central to the American dream. It has been ripped away, and we got to fix it. And I think you work hard, you play by the rules, you got to be able to pay your bills, afford your life, have a vacation now and again, get health care, retire with dignity. That is what the American dream is supposed to be all about. And look, I think most people feel like they work hard, and yet they can afford less and less. I sometimes talk about, the kind of life my grandpap had. This is a guy who served in World War II, came home, was a sailor in the Navy, had a union job at the city of Pittsburgh working for the Water Authority. He could afford a house in the city, raise his 2 kids, who got to go to college in Edinburgh up in Erie, and have a retirement and live a decent life. And I think that sounds like something that doesn't seem possible for people. And that is a major failure of our government across a long period of time. And so much of this, I think, is about the corruption and the corporate stranglehold on our economy. And I think, and I talk about competition a lot, and I think what we see, you look at parts of our economy, let's talk about food. Where there's consolidation, where there are big companies who have gobbled up competitors and there's little competition, they jack up prices. Let's talk about food suppliers. There are 4 companies, big corporations, who control around 60% of all sales in categories of groceries. And what do they do with that power? They jack up prices. It means we see the same kinds of companies and big corporations where there's consolidation take advantage of inflation. And they have corporate executives talking on earnings calls and all the rest about how they were able to pass on price increases and jack up prices well beyond inflation because they've got market power. That consolidation, it's also dangerous. People may remember, folks, you may remember there was a problem at a factory that made baby formula a few years back. Well, there are like 3 companies who control around 90% of the baby food market, or baby formula, infant formula market in this country. And one of those labs, a facility, I think in Michigan, it went down and it led to chaos. If you remember this, anyone had a baby at the time, my wife and I did, store shelves were often empty. It was tough to find formula. If you needed something specialty for your baby, you were in a really tough place. And again, that is about consolidation and problems and decisions that have been made to allow these companies to consolidate. It's a problem. We saw a report come out of the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, that disruptions from the pandemic were hurting smaller companies disproportionately, hurting them more because bigger corporations had more power to protect their market share and dictate prices. I had a visit a couple years ago with farmers as part of the Beaver and Lawrence County Farm Bureau. And one of the things I heard about was meat processors, that how hard it was for these smaller independent farmers, these are small business owners, to get their product in. They were having prices dictated to them. And so it doesn't just hurt those farmers and their businesses, it hurts all of us as consumers. We end up paying more. There's a thing called price discrimination, where it's against the law in this country to charge different prices and give different kinds of pricing offers to buyers just based on their size. There's a law, it's called the Robinson-Patman Act, that makes that illegal. That's price discrimination. I think it's anti-competitive. This goes back to the 1930s. But we see it play out where it kills mom and pop businesses, small grocers, you name it, where they can't compete with the giants who use that muscle to dictate terms, and then they pass on big price increases to all of us as consumers. So I am fighting back hard against these monopolies. I was proud to help launch a Monopoly Busters caucus with some of my colleagues. In fact, I was joined by some pharmacists from Aspinwall, small business owners, who came and shared their stories about how pharmacies, independent pharmacies, are getting crushed. We're seeing them close all across our region. I bet many of you have heard the news about the Rite Aids closing. That hurts all of us who might need to get a prescription filled. It hurts these small business owners who want to take care of their patients and their customers. It leads to fewer choices. And these PBMs, or pharmacy benefit managers, they are what we would call vertically integrated so often. They have a lot of power. They're middlemen. They might have a corporate family of companies that operates mail pharmacies, insurers, maybe even doctors' practices. And it's really hurting seniors, anyone who needs prescriptions filled, and the small business pharmacies that I think we want on our main streets. I could go on and on that meat processor issue. After that meeting with those farmers, we fired off a letter to the administration, to the folks who are supposed to be enforcing these, in this case, the Agriculture Department, to better protect us as consumers and the small business farmers in our district. So I connect the dots big time between what's going on in our economy, the rising costs, the fact that working hard isn't enough anymore to pay the bills and live a decent life, and I think that is a fundamental failure of our government, and I think it is one of the most pressing problems that we have to fix, and I'm in that fight.
So right here, right now, is the perfect time to get signed up to receive the Congressman's very informative e-newsletter. You can do that by pressing *6 on your telephone keypad. Again, get signed up to stay informed with the Congressman's e-newsletter by pressing *6. And if you've got a question on your mind for this conversation, please press *3. And our next question here, Congressman, comes from Jesse in Blonox, who says, our kids are addicted to smartphones, and we don't even know how bad it will impact them. Are you doing anything to help?
So I got to tell you, I'm worried about this, not just as a member of Congress. I'm a dad. I've got, as I said, I've got 4 kids. I've got young school-age kids. I'm a proud public school parent. It's scary. And I think we all can sense, if you're a parent or you've got kids in your life, you sense how dangerous the smartphones and social media is for kids. It's also, we've got pretty clear data on what the impact is of having smartphones in schools, and it's not good. It leads to worse educational outcomes, and we're talking test scores and GPA. We saw some reporting. I've seen some data on the number of notifications that kids are getting in a school day. I mean, it's in the hundreds, how distracting it is for kids. And I know, talking to teachers, big majorities of teachers think that cell phones and smartphones in the classroom are a major problem, that it's making the classroom environment worse, that they're stuck in an impossible situation of having to police kids on their phones all the time or having to ignore it so they can teach, and the kids are just distracted. And the schools that are implementing these bans to take smartphones out of the classroom, they're reporting that the teachers like it, the students are performing better. Stowe Rocks did this and reported seeing better outcomes for the kids, less fights, the lunchroom actually having kids talk to each other more. And so it's something that I'm worried about. I just fired off a letter to all the school districts in our congressional district, asking them about what their smartphone policies are for this coming school year. Do they have rules in place or bans in place? What does that look like? I want to see how our districts are thinking about it. And there's legislation in Washington around smartphone use in schools that I'm going to be supporting. I've also been interested and supportive of legislation to better protect our kids online. And I think any of the parents who are here know it's the Wild West out there. These big tech companies use our kids' data. They bombard them with really dangerous ads. I mean, some of the legislation I'm going to support or have supported does things like giving parents and guardians a power to control the kind of advertising that's bombarding our kids. And we're talking some basic stuff like kids shouldn't be targeted with alcohol and tobacco and gambling advertisements, pretty basic stuff. And so we got to do a better job in this country of being realistic about what social media use is and protecting our kids who are young and whose brains are still developing. And I think if we set them up for success in the classroom, can achieve that, but they got to have help from all of us.
Thank you, everyone who have submitted your questions. If you're still listening in and haven't submitted a question but have a question on your mind, simply press *3 on your telephone keypad to submit your question. Again, *3 is what you need to press if you've got a question. Now, quickly, I want to share the results of the poll question we recently asked. Question, how concerned are you about corruption in the federal government? Let's go for the biggest number here of those people that responded. 86% of those people on the line with us that responded are extremely concerned. 10% are moderately concerned, and 4% are not concerned. Thank you very much for replying to our question. And let's get back to another question from a constituent. Karen is asking, what, if anything, are the Democrats doing in Congress to stop this not-so-beautiful bill? What other things can the Democrat do to stop this bill?
Karen, thanks for the question. And I'm pretty sure the bill you're referring to is that bill I talked about at the beginning here, which is this big Republican, very partisan bill that has tax policy changes, health care cuts. That's what I was talking about at the beginning when I was referring back to this bill that I voted against. And just reminding people, this is a bill that the Republicans, my Republican counterparts, are purposefully pursuing on their own. They don't want to work with Democrats. They want to be very partisan here. I wish that weren't the case. That is what they're doing. And it's a bill that would add trillions to the debt that we'll all pay for and our kids and grandkids are likely stuck paying for. And it takes away health care. I cited the numbers. More than 20,000 people in our congressional district would lose health care here, all to pay for tax giveaways, some of the richest and most powerful people in the country. I think it's foolish. I voted against it in the House. I've been sounding the alarm about it, not just on a telephone town hall or an in-person town hall with all of you, but in the press. I've rallied with people across our region to talk about how dangerous I think this could be. I'm going to continue doing everything I can to stand up for so many of us who I think this would hurt in our region. And so that's what I can do. But I think you're asking, what can you do? And look, I say this. I care what my constituents think. When a constituent says something to me at a grocery store or calls in the office or writes us a letter or an email, that matters to me. I get a report every week of the kinds of calls and emails and the data that comes into my office. I know I care. I suspect I'm not the only one who's in the House or the Senate who cares what their constituents think. And I think that can't be underestimated. And again, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that this thing does not become law. If this bill comes back to the House as it is now, I'm not going to support it. I'm going to encourage my colleagues, no matter their party, to vote with me against something like this. And I'm encouraging the Senate, including our senators, to not go down this path. Work with Democrats, not just Republicans, to fix this bill, to take away these health care cuts that pay for tax giveaways that would saddle us with debt, to take out some of the worst parts of what this bill is. I don't think the Senate has to do this, and I hope they change course.
So just a very quick reset here, just so everyone knows. We've got a huge turnout. Over 12,000 constituents have connected into this live telephone town hall with Congressman Chris Deluzio. It's an important conversation. If you've got a question, all you need to do is press star 3 on your telephone keypad. Again, please press star 3 if you've got a question that you'd like to ask. And don't forget, take a moment right now to press star 6 and get subscribed to the Congressman's e-newsletter. All right, so we've got a question here from Sarah. And the question is, Congressman, why did you vote no on impeachment?
Sarah, thank you. And for folks who maybe not followed this as closely, there was a vote, I think yesterday. It wasn't a vote necessarily on impeaching President Trump. It was a vote on a motion to table, which was essentially a vote to take the underlying impeachment articles off the floor to give more time for the Congress to consider this. I voted to table, which is what my vote was yesterday. I will tell you, one of the most solemn responsibilities the Congress has is impeaching any federal official, and certainly an impeachment of the president is about as serious as it can get, which is, I imagine people know, impeachment is for high crimes and misdemeanors. I will tell you, my caucus voted to elect a congressman named Jamie Raskin, who's a constitutional scholar, to lead us on the Judiciary Committee. And I joined with him and so many others yesterday because this process has to be done in a very serious way. It's not some small thing to proceed to impeach any federal official, and certainly the president. The American people have to be part of this. Any investigation, should it happen, has to be done where there's gathering of evidence and presentation of legal arguments. I have colleagues who are deeply involved in that kind of work, and Jamie Raskin certainly, as our leader on the Judiciary Committee, is at the center of it. And I agree with him and so many others that none of that work has been done or presented to the American people, who I think expect Congress to work responsibly, whether it's on impeachment or voting on a tax and spending bill or something around a war powers resolution, whatever it is. And so I take that very seriously. I think that's the right approach, whatever and whomever the official is. And I'll continue to push for accountability from the Trump administration. I was very clear that I thought what I saw out of, for instance, Secretary Pete Hegseth, who's the defense secretary, around sharing classified information while there were strikes being ordered in real time on Signal, which is a messaging platform, was irresponsible, probably a violation of the law, and he should lose his job. So I don't take lightly when there are failures in this administration. I will be clear in continuing and pushing against them and working with my colleagues to make sure we're holding this administration accountable as we would with any administration.
So next up, we've got an online question. And Jeff is wondering, what is your stance on the right to repair laws, especially as it pertains to military readiness? Commentary on personal and private use is welcome.
It's a great question. And so I'll just give a background, maybe if people aren't used to this phrase, right to repair. It seems pretty obvious, right? In America, you have the right to fix your stuff, okay? But what we've seen in a lot of our economy around a lot of equipment is that pretty powerful companies have asserted intellectual property rights or trade secret rights and made it so that people can't fix their own stuff. The car makers have often made it harder to fix your car. We've seen the companies that would make the ice cream machines that McDonald's had make it impossible for franchise owners to fix those machines on their own. We've seen this happen in the defense industry, where the big, powerful defense contractors are blocking our troops from fixing their own gear and equipment. We hear about it from farmers with companies like John Deere who make it really hard to fix your own tractor. And I could go on and on. And so right to repair is about exactly that you should have the right to fix your stuff, and that a powerful company should not be allowed to use their monopoly power or anything else to block you from doing it. And so there's legislation I've been supporting since I got to Congress pretty early on in my first term. I'm continuing to do that. I'm guessing that we're actually going to have a chance in this year's defense bill. It's called the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, if you're being really specific, to do some things to protect the right to repair so that our troops and our government is not getting ripped off. And it's not just about not getting ripped off. They're often stuck waiting for these big defense contractors to send their people to fix stuff when our troops could do this on their own. And so it's also about readiness. And so I think we're going to have a fight. I hope we can get some wins to push back against these powerful companies. But I don't know there's anything more fundamentally American than having the power to fix your own stuff. I think this is common sense. It's a place where Democrats and Republicans should agree, and I will keep you guys posted on this, but I'm hopeful we can get something done.
So our next question is from Angela in Marshall Township, asking, what can you do to protect the safety and I think it's efficacy of our vaccines?
Well, let's start with I'm very worried about who President Trump put in to lead Health and Human Services Department. That's RFK Jr. I don't think he should have been confirmed. I think he said some crazy stuff about vaccines. I think he's spreading a lot of lies that could put real risk out there for people. We've seen measles outbreaks in parts of the country, things that we've had safe vaccines for a long time. So we should follow the science. For folks who've been following this, Secretary Kennedy there, he fired a lot of members. I think actually all of the members of this vaccine advisory board at the CDC, at Centers for Disease Control. This is risky, dangerous stuff because some of the people or the new folks he's putting on this board are people who have been pushing dangerous anti-vaccine lies. I've got little kids. I worry about their safety when you've got anti-vaccine lies being spread around, where we could have diseases come back that we could have eradicated that could really put little kids at risk. So let's follow let's follow the science here. Governor Shapiro has piped up on this in a way that I agree with, begging at Secretary Kennedy to just follow the science. I agree. Follow the science.
Remember, if you've got a question, please press *3 on your telephone keypad to get that question submitted. Also, this is a great opportunity to get enrolled in the Congressman's e-newsletter. Press *6 to do that. And next up, a question, or a statement actually in question, from Brendan. Says, I'm one of the federal employees being affected by mass terminations going on. I wanted to voice my appreciation for Congressman Deluzio for supporting us so far.
Well, hey, thanks for that. And look, I think everyone wants our government to function well, right? We don't want to see government money wasted. We want to see efficiency. Let's reform government. I am all in. What I am not in for is dumb firings of people who do really important public service. I talk about the VA and Veterans Care a lot because I'm a veteran, because I've served in the Veterans Affairs Committee, and I get my health care at the VA. Those are public servants who do really important work. There's been stuff in the news at home, I hope some people have heard about this, of planned firings, I'll give an example, for workers who work at a NIOSH facility, Allegheny County. These are people who are doing things like respirator safety and mine safety research. Some of those folks because of our work, and I say our, I mean my colleagues and me and people in the public who push back, are no longer getting fired, and that's great. But some still are, and I think that's really dumb, because this is important work that we expect of our government. And there have been firings and planned firings announced all over the government, from the Veterans Affairs, VA, Homeland Security. This administration has tried to shut down and dismantle the Department of Education. There have been fights against a lot of this in the courts, and I know a lot of the court fights have led to these planned firings being stopped. And again, I come back to, this is not just about any one worker. This is about what we expect our government to do and the public servants that we expect to deliver good public services. And you are not, I'll give it one example, you're not going to be able to deliver on the promise to care for veterans who have earned health care if you're planning to fire 80,000 veterans. Now, I went on to ask questions of the VA secretary about, joining my colleagues to have questions asked about those plans. We still have not seen the plans that have been floating around firing people. I think it'd be foolish to pursue that. I still will continue to try to get answers so that there is clarity for not just my fellow veterans, but for folks who work at the VA and all of us in our region. I've seen efforts. I actually just had someone in from Pennsylvania and from the AARP in my office today talking to me about firings and efforts to hurt the Social Security Administration, and making the point to me that if those efforts work, if you fire and dismantle and undermine the Social Security Administration, it will mean that people will lose out on earned Social Security benefits. I think that's crazy. I don't think we should do that. I don't think it should be harder for people to get the benefits they've earned. It should be easier. We should be expanding the ways people can call in or walk in or go online to get Social Security Administration questions answered. So I just cite that as an example of why I think it's so foolish. And again, I want our government to be efficient. I want our government to save money. I serve on the Armed Services Committee. I talk a lot about the waste that I see in so many of the weapon systems and parts and supplies where we don't have much competition. I go on and on about that. Let's dig out that fraud, waste, and abuse. And yet I don't hear much of that. And so I'll keep fighting for a government that delivers on the basic services that we need and fight against what I think are foolish and irresponsible firings of people.
So our next question comes from Colleen and Scott, who submitted this online. And they're wondering, what is Congress doing to protect public lands, especially national parks, from mining and lumber, et cetera?
Thanks for the question, and maybe I'm guessing some people have heard some of the news because part of that, back to that big tax and spending bill, there was a proposal, and it's moved around a bunch in the Senate, which I thought was pretty wild and I wouldn't support, that was going to take millions of acres of public land across a bunch of states and put it up for sale. That could have opened it up for mining. And then much of this land is in the Mountain West or along the West Coast. I got a lot of calls. I mean, I think more than 1,000 in my office, really concerned about this. And thankfully, there's been pushback from both Democrats and Republicans on this, because I think people expect our country to have public lands. The outdoors matter. Our national parks are beautiful if you ever had the chance to see them. It's really important. And whether you're a hiker or a hunter, you fish, you camp, you bike, whatever, we have beautiful public lands, and it's important that we maintain them. And I don't think this makes sense, and I don't think it makes sense, especially as they're doing this with this bill that would take away health care and also jam us with fiscally reckless tax giveaways. And so I'll continue to push back on efforts to sell off our public lands, as we've seen here, and hopefully our senators and the Senate walks away from doing that. I think it'd be really irresponsible. And we've seen impacts in Pennsylvania even through some of the DOGE cuts. That's the group that Elon Musk was heading up for a while there, that have affected places like Raystown Lake in Huntington County in Pennsylvania. We've seen impacts across the country to public lands and parks, and I just think it's foolish. Like, these are really important things for conservation, and the last thing we should be doing is looking to sell it off to people.
As it's been mentioned a few times, I'm going to mention it again. The congressman and his staff put together a very informative e-newsletter, and you can get subscribed to that newsletter right here, right now, by simply pressing *6 on your telephone keypad. Again, get signed up to receive the very informative e-newsletter from the congressman. by pressing star 6. Here's another question. This one comes from Joe, who says, why are illegal aliens getting Social Security, and why do I have to pay taxes on my Social Security?
Well, let's start with the first part of that. That's not the law. That's not what should be happening. It's not happening if you're not an American who pays into the Social Security system, who has a Social Security number. Remember, these are earned benefits, right? I don't care what Elon Musk or others have said calling Social Security. I think they've called it a Ponzi scheme. That's crazy. These are earned benefits you pay into every paycheck across a lifetime of hard work. And I talked a little bit about the efforts that I have been opposed to, I think, dismantle and hurt the Social Security Administration, which means it would put at risk benefits to people. If you've got a delay of even a month of getting those Social Security benefits, that can affect you for your whole retirement. That's thousands of dollars. I've also been worried about Doge and others getting access to the really sensitive data or personal information that hackers would love to have. And we know cybersecurity risks are real. And like when I talk about some of the things I'm worried about the Social Security Administration, let me be clear. Cutting phone services, reduced staffing, closing field offices, those are all things this administration has been plotting or trying to do. I think it's foolish. Stopping the option for paper checks, something they've been trying to do. And we had reports for a while of the Social Security website crashing, and I think, again, because of efforts to cut staff at the Social Security Administration. Those are problems. We need claim staff to be there to enter and deal with new disability claims, for instance. You need staff to be able there to handle appointments, to be able to take those phone calls. No one wants to wait hours and hours on the phone. And so I think we should be strengthening Social Security. I'm on legislation that will do exactly that, not just about protecting our data. I'm on legislation to do that, to keep our field offices open. I'm on legislation to do that. I'm also on legislation that will shore up Social Security for a long time, to not just strengthen benefits, but end the craziness, to me, of someone who makes $1 billion paying the same towards Social Security as someone who makes $180,000. That doesn't make sense. I think it's fiscally irresponsible and a good way that we can get stronger solvency for Social Security for a long time, for generations to come. And so I'll keep doing and supporting everything I can to strengthen this, not just for people who are receiving Social Security right now, but for young people, for people who are nearing retirement. This is a basic bargain in this country that if you work hard, Social Security will be there to help you live a decent life in retirement.
So Bob has a question. He's asking, how can the Congressman's office help with better veteran assistance from the VA?
Well, call us. If anyone's having VA issues, call my office. I mean, here, I'll give you. You can go on the website, deluzio.house.gov. Call us in Carnegie. I'll give you the phone number right now: 344-5583. Call us in Center Township in Beaver County at 724-206-4860. This is a really important part of the casework that my team and I work on. If you've got issues with the VA, call us. That's it. We will do everything we can to help. I've got a Veterans Advisory Council who knows a lot about the different groups out there who are ready and willing to help veterans in Western Pennsylvania. Just give us a call. We'll do anything we can to help.
Thank you very much, Congressman, and thank you, everyone, for participating. And it looks like we're right about that time where we've got time for one more question. And this is from Ben online, who says, thank you for your service in the U.S. Navy as well as in Congress. Thank you for your support for Ukraine. Would you please co-sponsor H.R. 2548, sanctioning Russia Act of 2025? This bipartisan bill has 75 co-sponsors in the House and would force Russia to negotiate.
Kurt, can you give me that bill number again? It was HR. I want to write it down.
HR 2548.
Thank you. I will flag it for my team for us to take a look at and see what's going on with this bill. Look, I've been clear that Vladimir Putin and Russia started a war of aggression against Ukraine. I think it's outrageous. They should never have done this. I think the Ukrainians have been bravely fighting for their sovereignty and their self-determination. I know we've got a strong community in Western Pennsylvania. We've got some folks who are in this country having left Ukraine and fled Ukraine here under asylum and other programs. And so I think it's so important to continue to think about those guys, protect them. And so I will absolutely have my team take a look, and we'll make sure we get an answer to you guys very soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Congressman. And for everybody listening in on the call, if you want to take a moment and grab a pen and paper, I've got a couple of touch points here coming up. This brings us to the end of Congressman Deluzio's live telephone town hall for June. I want to thank everyone for participating and joining us this evening. If you have a question that wasn't answered, or if you need assistance from a federal agency, please go to the contact page on the Congressman's website. That's at deluzio.house.gov. Again, DELUZIO.HOUSE.gov. deluzio.house.gov. You can also call the Congressman's office at 412-344-5583. Again, that office number, 412-344-5583. You can continue to stay in touch with Congressman Deluzio using the social media handle at Rep. Deluzio, or subscribing to his e-newsletter, which you can sign up for on that website, deluzio.house.gov. Now, I'll turn it back over to Congressman Deluzio for some closing remarks and anything else he'd like to add. Congressman.
Well, thanks, everybody, for joining me tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. As I said, I'm down in Washington for votes, but always great to be with you guys, at least on the phone. I got the number, nearly 13,000 people on tonight. That's awesome. I'm so proud you guys came on with me tonight. And look, whether we agree on everything or not, or agree on some things, I think most of us agree about a lot, about what makes not just our country special, but our part of the world of Western Pennsylvania. I talk a lot about the values of hard work and patriotism and sacrifice that I think are really what makes us the best in this country of ours. And I think we got to take those values to our fight against corruption and so much else that's hurt the American dream. It's central to something I think we got to do in our government. So I hope you enjoyed being on tonight. We'll continue to have more of these events in person and virtually. So please stay tuned on my social media and through my newsletter. And you can sign up for the newsletter if you're interested on the website. It's right there on deluzio.house.gov. And I want to highlight some services I talked about, some of it tonight. Number one, my office hosts paid internship opportunities at home in my offices and also down in Washington. And we're taking applications for fall internships, so interested candidates, you can apply through the website. And then finally, and always, please let me and my team know if we can help you with any issue you're having with a federal agency, setting you up with a tour if you come visit Washington, requesting a flag flown over the Capitol in honor of a loved one, you name it. If there's something we can help with on the federal government, please give me a call. My job is to fight for all of us, good people of Western Pennsylvania. My office is here to serve all of you. There's a lot of work to get done, and I know we got big challenges ahead. I know, and I'm sure I wasn't able to answer every question tonight, so let's keep talking. Whether you want to send a question in, come to a future event, you're always welcome to call my offices. We shared that info. We'll continue to do that. You can see it on the website as well. Thank you for tuning in. I hope to see you guys soon. Have a great night.